So I've used this nifty new tool I found called Trello to break down the Addie model into sort of all of the things you're doing each step of the way. The Addie model is a model for creating lessons or units or even projects for your classroom, and it comes in 5 steps. First, you have analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. So if we start with the analysis level, it's really asking a lot of questions for us, starting with who are our learners? And that's going to include more questions like what are their learning styles? What prior knowledge do they have? What are their needs and how are we best going to meet them? And questions like that. During this time, you're also going to be thinking about what is your desired learning outcome? What are the objectives? And start to outline the goals and objectives for the unit and for each of your students. You should also begin thinking about how your learning will be assessed and what's being assessed. What will students produce? How are they going to be demonstrating their learning or their mastery of the content? It's also important to start thinking about your timeline during this phase. How much time is available? How is the time going to be broken up? How many classes do you have? How much time do you have in class? Will there be time in between classes that can be used? Will they be working at home on projects or things like that? You should also be considering your resources during the analysis phase. What types of technology and other resources will they need? And will they have access to it? Will they need access to these things outside of class? And who's going to choose those resources? Are you the teacher choosing them, or will the students have choice in what they're going to use? So after you're done asking all these questions, you can kind of move into the design phase. And we're still going to be asking a lot of questions, but we're going to actually start doing some planning, starting with learning strategies. What kind of learning strategies work best with your students and work best with your content? How are you going to differentiate for your students? And do these learning strategies support your personal learning theory? Using that and all the information from our analysis phase, you're going to start to outline and organize your content, figuring out what exactly needs to be taught, what order will it be taught in. Again, thinking about how much time is going to be needed for each objective, and what exactly are we asking our students to do with that content? Are we going to ask them to apply it? Or are we going to ask them to analyze or create, or all those things? Next, you can move into outlining your assessments. You need to figure out what major assessments and projects you're going to be doing, what's required of the students, what type of formative and summative assessments, and how those will be assessed. And really just your overall lesson plans. We're designing the unit, the lesson. During this time, you also want to consider your technology again, and even start assessing your plan for the technology. And you can use some of these models we've learned about, the 3 E's or the SAMR, and start designing, laying out your day-to-day lessons. Once you've got a plan kind of designed and outlined, you're going to move into the development, which is you actually creating your content. Now that you've come up with the design, you make it. This would be all of your presentation materials, writing all your questions, student instructions, actually creating the resources that students and teachers will be using, and also your assessments. So while the design phase is kind of planning and outlining all of it, the development phase is the actual creation of any of the physical tools or actual questions. So once everything's been created, you can move to implementation. This could be actually teaching the lesson in your classroom, or it could even be teaching your lesson to other teachers and working with other teachers to figure out to better develop and design your lesson, or to better implement it when you do use it in your classroom. And the last phase is evaluation. So once your lesson has been implemented, it's time to reflect on how effective was your lesson and how effective was the design, the development, and the implementation, all of those things. You're also going to evaluate the use of technology in your classroom and lesson and evaluate your assessment. Did it assess what it was supposed to? Was it reliable? Was it accurate? And all of those things. So I hope this little Trello account has helped you see some of the breakdowns of the different steps. But like most of these models, it doesn't necessarily have to go in a linear fashion. You're going to continually evaluate what's going on each step of the way. You may move back to the design phase after you've been developing things and realize it needs more work. And there's a lot of overlap between these. There was a lot of the similar questions being asked in multiple areas. But overall, the Addie model gives you sort of an outline to a process that really we're doing daily in creating new content, new lessons, and new projects for our children.